Chris here, and welcome to my channel, and welcome to this week's reading vlog. So it's July, which means I get to start a whole new TBR with a whole new bunch of books, and some books that I didn't get to in June that I still want to read. So, that being said, it's actually the second now, because it was too hot to film earlier. Summer is kicking my butt, you guys. I am so ready for winter. Between the allergies and the heat, I'm like, nope, winter. I want it cold. My dad's like, oh, well, it's going to be like 69 tomorrow night. And I'm like, I'd prefer 49. I miss being able to wear a hoodie. Like, that's my jam. I want my beanie and my hoodie, and I want to be slightly chilly. Because to me, it is easier to get warm than it is to cool off. I can always bundle up more, add more layers. I can only take off so many. And I've mentioned in other vlogs that, like, I can't put an air conditioner in. And I didn't mention, but my window is not in great shape, so we don't open my bedroom window. It would be, like, for emergencies. So, I don't get airflow. And right now, if you watched last week's vlog, you'll see that it is very hard to get to the window in my spare room. So, this part of my house is hot because there's no airflow. Those are the only two windows from the living room down. And then down here, I have, like, right now I have my PlayStation on so that I can play ambiance in the background to drown out noise. And my computer puts off a bunch of heat, so it gets hot down here. So I didn't film earlier. But I did read a little bit today. So after I got up, I made a little bit more progress on the Shadow Rising. Yeah, Shadow Rising. I am now on page 577, so I read like 40 pages. This is going to be my priority for tonight. I believe the audiobook is due back tomorrow. I listened to it at 3 times speed. I have 15 hours left, so it should take me about 5 hours. So this will be my goal. I absolutely think I can do that if I focus on it, and it's going to be the only thing I read until I finish it. That being said, last night before I went to bed, I gave myself a break and read some easy, fun books. Well, maybe not fun, but you'll see. So first one I'm going to mention is What Was Stonewall? This is why I say not necessarily fun. This is a nonfiction for middle graders that is about, well, what Stonewall is. I gave this book 4.25 stars. I had heard of Stonewall, but I had never read anything about it, so I wasn't quite sure what the context was. So I think this is an amazing little book that kind of gives you the basics. I love this series because it really does just that. It gives you a little bit of background information, which means even as an adult, you learn something when you read these. They're written in a very simple, easy to understand manner. And it's made me very curious to find other books, usually when I read one of these, about the topic that have a little bit more information. I think it is amazing that this series exists and teaches middle graders and others, hi, that's me, about topics they maybe didn't know anything about, but definitely middle graders and middle grade me would have thought this series was so cool. Then, in a lot more fun vein, I read Shelby and Watts, A Mountain of Problems. So this was one of my series to continue. This is a children's graphic novel series that follows Shelby and Watts, who are modeled after Sherlock and Watson. And in this one, they're trying to figure out why Violet the bear woke up early. In the first one, I know that they were trying to help somebody find, like, their shell because it had been taken or something to that effect. But it basically ended up talking about beach conservation and things you can do to help out the beach. And this one also has that kind of aspect of there is a lesson to be learned in this novel, and then they give, like, actual factual information at the end about the topic that is discussed in the novel. I'm sure you can kind of figure out what woke up Violet early. I know I did, but I think it's just a cool little graphic novel series that has, like, a mystery aspect to it. Is perfect for kids, plays off the Sherlock thing, so I think adults will get a kick out of that if they're reading it to their kid. And then, of course, teaches the child something. I gave this 4.5 stars. Really love the series. We'll definitely continue it when the next book comes out. Another book I gave 4.5 stars to is Granddad's Pride. So this is the sequel to Granddad's Camper. And let me see, what's her name? Millie. So this follows Millie and her granddad. In the first one, they're talking about the trips that her granddad and her gramps went on with her camper. In this one, they're talking about pride and parades and everything to do with pride. And it's just a really nice look at what pride is, the meaning of it, and celebrating it with those you love. Such a cute idea. Really, really love the way Harry Woodgate has written both Grandad's Camper and Grandad's Pride and made it seem completely normal that she's got two grandfathers. I wish I had that kind of representation in my books as a kid, so I'm so glad to see it in a new generation, because even if a child doesn't have two granddads, they're probably at some point going to encounter somebody who has two dads or two moms, or a dad and a Rennie maybe, because I learned that Rennie is a gender neutral term for mom or dad, coming from parent. It was something I looked up when I was younger, because once I figured out that I wasn't a girl, I was trying to find gender neutral terms for everything. So like for my little ones, I'm or Chris, which is a gender neutral term for aunt or uncle. I tend to refer to them as my nibblings, which is a gender neutral term for niece and nephew, even though, as far as I know, none of them have said anything about wanting to use different pronouns. But to me, it is just a more inclusive way of talking about it, and nibblings is a really cute word. So I think books like these make it normalized and show kids that it's just, you know, no different than somebody having brown hair versus red hair, or blue eyes versus green eyes, or having only a mom or only a dad, or being raised by their grandparents. I just like when books show that these things exist and they're perfectly acceptable. So really, really enjoy this series, and hope we get to see more from Grandad and Millie. Also by Harry Woodgate is Timid. I gave this book 3.75 stars, and this follows a young boy named Timmy who loves to perform but has stage fright. And it deals with this lion, which is a representation of his anxiety that kind of roars at him and drowns him out, and it is a manifestation in his head of his fear. It wasn't my favorite picture book that I've read lately. I've been reading a lot of them. But I do like that there are books for kids that kind of address the idea of anxiety. And this one, I think, is one a lot of people can relate to, like stage fright. And I think that's important because, again, I have an anxiety disorder. I was diagnosed with anxiety when I was 13. The first time I can remember having a panic attack was when I was 8. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what I was experiencing was anxiety until I was told by a professional, you have an anxiety disorder. What you're experiencing, that right there, what you just described, as anxiety. I wish I had. I really do, because I think everything would have been different if I had understood what my body was going through and why I was reacting the way I was. Now, granted, my triggers were very, very different than stage fright, though I did have that one too. I certainly didn't want to talk in front of a bunch of people or be on a stage alone. But I think this is a good way of introducing the concept of anxiety in a way that a lot of people might relate to, because it's going to be a lot harder to describe anxiety when it becomes abnormal with non-relatable triggers. I'll put it that way. So I think it is important. I just didn't love it, but I will say it's diverse. Timmy ends up making a friend with a black girl, which I like. So we have like a white kid and a black kid, and I like that there's diversity in it too, not just anxiety. And it is interesting to see how they both navigate Timmy's anxiety. So cute book, not my favorite, but I would still recommend it if you have a little one and are trying to introduce the concept of anxiety to them. And then the last book I read is another picture book. And that's Pride, the story of Harvey Milk and the Rainbow Flag. So this is a nonfiction biography about Harvey Milk. I did not know that Harvey Milk was involved in creating the Pride flag. I knew of Harvey Milk, but I didn't know a lot about him. I knew he was queer. But again, I didn't know what he did in the community. I knew he was murdered. But again, I didn't know the events surrounding that, and I think this does a very good job of kind of touching on that in a way that kids can understand. I also really like that there's very colorful pages. So you see a lot of rainbow colors throughout the book, not just, you know, in the flag itself. So I liked that it was very, very colorful because I think it would keep a child's attention. I gave this one 4.25 stars as well. So really enjoyed the selection of picture books I picked out. And that's all I read. Like I said, I had a easy night last night because I read the 3 picture books and then these 2 last night. So really quick, easy read. It made me feel like I was accomplishing something after how insane June was, even though, I mean, they're not exactly hard reads. But that's where I'm at so far this week. This is already an extremely long clip given that I'm only starting the week. Hopefully I will be able to check in more consistently now that I'm not constantly busy. So we shall see, and I will check back in soon to let you know what I get up to and what my final rating is on The Shadow Rising. So in a surprising turn of events, it's Tuesday and I'm checking in. I've had 3 full days of reading and I'm actually checking into a vlog. Will wonders never cease? So first I'm going to mention that I finished Witchlings, which is a 5-star prediction, so you'll see that when that round comes out. I will say, how awesome is this cover? It was part of the reason I thought it might be a 5-star. Like, the cover is just so intriguing that I really wanted it to be 5 stars. And oh, look, it's Miss Ellie. She's coming to say hi to you guys. She'll get my thoughts on Witchlings in my 5-star prediction wrap-up vlog. I read The Story Seeker. So this is the second book in the New York Public Library series. I think that's what it's called. It's set in the New York Public Library. And we follow Viviana. And in this one, library books have gone missing and she is looking into it. This is a historical fiction and is based on a real person who did indeed live in the New York Public Library back in the day. I gave this book 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed this one. I don't remember what I gave the first book, but I know I did not enjoy it anywhere near as much as this one. So I'm glad I continued on with the series. And this came out of my series to continue jar. So I've knocked one of those off already. On top of that, I believe this is the most recent book in the series. So I'm now caught up on this series for the moment. Hopefully there'll be more books because I really like the premise. And then this would be easier if I wasn't holding Cielo, But, oh, she's gonna get down. I finished this brick. So this is the Shadow Rising. It's the 4th book in the Wheel of Time series, and I gave this book 4.25 stars. This series has hooked me. I am so incredibly curious about where things are going. I know that some of the people involved are not enjoying it, but I very much am. Oh, I left my bookmark in here. Let's get that out of there. I promise you I did finish it. I was listening to the audiobook and I had stuck my bookmark in at some point in case I wanted to physically read along. You will have seen that I read this because I was listening to it while working on a puzzle. I did not get back to that today because that was Monday. And then today I had to leave the house and I didn't want to and it wasn't planned and I'm so tired of leaving the house. Oh, and I had a panic attack, so that was fun. So I didn't get as much reading done today, but I wanted to let you know that I finished this. It's 4 stars. I'm enjoying this series. I don't think it's going to be like a favorite. I don't think it's going to be one I ever reread, but I'm enjoying my read of it and I'm glad that I'm taking part in the Wheel of Time along. Though I will say, not at all unhappy about the fact that I don't have to read another book next month. No, I do have to read another book next month. That was supposed to be finished in June. Anyways, glad I don't have another one of those to pick up until August. Then I started 2 books. I've started Resurrection, and this is the 10th? Yeah, 10th book in the Skullduggery Pleasant series. I'm 80 pages into it. I'm very intrigued. This series has really changed dramatically since the first book. We're following Skullduggery Pleasant, who is a skeleton, and in the first book, after the death of her uncle, Skullduggery meets Val. And they are investigating crimes, and Val kind of becomes a sidekick, and she's really grown throughout the books, and it's very interesting to see where she is now compared to where she was when these books started. This has started off quite interesting, and I'm very, very curious as to where this story goes. This is kind of like a Wheel of Time, in the sense that I feel like it's going to be a solid 4-star read for the most part, with maybe books that dip up or dip down. But for the most part, it's a solid 4-star read, which means I'm enjoying the series. It's not a new favorite, but I'm enjoying it. And it's not one I can see myself rereading, but I am enjoying my read of it. And then the other book I started is In the Life of Puppets. So I am only 1 chapter in. I was very tired last night, and I just wanted to start this. I am so excited to be reading another TJ Klune book. I love his adult fantasies, and I'm hoping that this will give me the same feelings I had reading The House in the Cerulean Sea and Under the Whispering Door, because I adore both of those books so much, and I want to adore this one too. So we shall see. That is my reading update. I wanted to make it a point to check in because I actually finished something, and I've been so terrible at that I feel like I owe you guys a vlog where I consistently check in. So I think that I will try to check in maybe Thursday morning, like after midnight, so between Wednesday and Thursday, because right now it's between Monday and Tuesday. Or maybe I'll check in before wrestling on Wednesday. We'll see. Wednesday and Thursday, it's supposed to be hot, with Thursday being like 90 here, and if it's humid, it's going to suck. So we'll see how that goes. But I wanted to check in, let you know what I was reading, let you know what I had gotten done, and kind of make up for maybe some smaller vlogs or more info dumpy vlogs, because I had this pile of books and I just spit them all out at you. So that's my reading update, and I'm gonna go so that I can get some more done so I have more to tell you about. It is now the 8th, which means it's time to check in and wrap this vlog up. I am tired. very tired. It's been so hot and humid. So I have not got anywhere near as much reading done as I wanted. But that's not to say I haven't read anything. So we'll start with the fact that I finished both Midnight and Resurrection by Derek Landy, and I gave both of these books 4.25 stars. These are books 10 and 11 in the Skullduggery Pleasant series. Wow, did we go on some wild rides in these ones. We are introduced to a new character in, which one's 10? Resurrection, and I really like them. And I enjoyed getting to spend time with them. This one leaves in quite the interesting place, so I'm looking forward to reading book 12. This series is one that I did not expect to enjoy as much as I did, and while it's not like a new favorite and I can't see myself rereading it, it is one I've really enjoyed, and I'm very curious to see how it kind of wraps up because we're getting towards the end of it, so that's exciting. The only other book I've finished since I last talked to you is Magical Boy Volume 2, and I gave this book 4.5 stars. So this is the second book in the duology. And this follows a boy named Max who wakes up one day to learn that he is descended from a long line of magical girls. And he has to connect to his inner goddess, Aurora, because that's who they're descended from. The only hitch is Max is trans, so Max wants nothing to do with being a magical girl. So he has to figure out how to protect his town from this threat while also being true to who he is. I've really enjoyed reading this series. Max is such an interesting character, and it's interesting to see him grapple with his lineage and his gender identity. I really like the way the author wrote the people around him and how all of them reacted to Max, and how that both was a positive and a negative, as I feel like that's pretty true to real life, even though we're dealing with this like fantastical storyline. This was just such a fast, easy graphic novel series to read. I really, really enjoyed it. It's one I could actually see myself rereading. Really glad it was put on my radar, and I would highly recommend it if you're looking for a graphic novel series that features magic and a trans main character. Now, in addition to the books that I started in June and haven't touched since then, I've also made some progress in a few others. The first is Fine, a comic about gender, and I'm on page 158. This is a lot more dense than I thought it would be for a graphic novel, but I think it's more in the sense that it's emotionally dense, because I'm reading it and really connecting with some of the stories and the struggle and the different points of view on gender and how one expresses oneself and how that can be very different for everybody. I'm really, really enjoying my read of this. It's just been one I need to pick up when I'm in the right headspace to read it, because like I said, there's a lot of emotional stuff that's going on with my read of this. So enjoying it, but not flying through it like I thought I was going to. I started my reread of The Hidden Oracle, which is the first book in the Trials of Apollo series. I'm about 100 pages in, and I'm absolutely loving this. I adore Apollo. He is absolutely hilarious. His narrative voice makes me chuckle, and I'm so excited to be on this journey with him again, especially knowing the full story and being curious to see if I can pick up on anything foreshadowy in the earlier books that pops up in the later books. So hopefully we'll continue that, because I would like to read books 2 and 3 this month as well. And the other update I have is that I've made more progress in the Lives of Puppets. I am on page 214. So this follows a man named Vic who lives with his father, Geo, in a kind of treehouse village. And it's just him, Geo, and 2 robots, Nurse Ratchet and Rambo. And Nurse Ratchet is obviously a nurse kind of robot, and Rambo is essentially a Roomba. And this is a futuristic world. Vic has never known anything other than this life of living with Geo in this treehouse. He goes to a scrapyard one day and manages to find another robot and bring said robot home. This robot creates a lot of chaos because it brings... what is it? I don't know exactly what they're called, but it essentially brings these other robots, not very nice ones, onto his dwelling, and they're part of Geo's past because Geo just happens to be a robot as well. Geo is then captured by these beings and taken away. So with the help of Nurse Ratched, Rambo, and this new robot, Hap, Vic sets out to go and find his father, or the only father figure he's ever known. So I was very, very excited to read this book. And then I started reading it, and it's so not what I'm in the mood for. It was due back on June 23rd, or I probably wouldn't be reading it right now. Like, if I owned it, there's no way I would be choosing to read it right now. But I've got it out of the library, so I kind of feel like I need to read it because I don't want to have to wait to get it back out of the library again. And I didn't realize it was so not what I was in the mood to read until I started reading it. So this will probably be one I reread in the future and update my rating on, because I feel like it's not going to get a fair rating because, like I said, it's not the kind of book I'm in the mood to read. Like, interestingly enough, the Skullduggery Pleasant books were right up my alley. I'm in the mood for really, like, fast-paced fantasies, and this is a science fiction. And I can struggle with those. I think it's going to be in the 4-star range, but I think it'll be a lower 4-star than it deserves. Though it could surprise me and my mood could change, and by the end of the book, I might go, oh my god, another 5-star, TJ Klune has done it again. So we'll see, but that's where I kind of stand with this right now. Although I will say, the voice narration for this is fantastic, and I really, really love Rambo. So we'll see where it goes, because I am enjoying it. I'm just thinking it's getting an unfair shake because of my headspace. So that's my update. Like I said, not as much read, but it was so incredibly hot. Like, today we at least had some rain, which broke up some of the humidity, but I can tell you right now, I'm dying. I'm so hot. I cannot wait to turn my fan back on. On Thursday, it was, like, in the 90s, but with humidity, so it felt a lot hotter. And I tried to read in my bedroom, but with there being no airflow, I ended up in the living room, and the TV is never off in the living room, so there's no reading in the living room, so I just sat in the living room and worked on a puzzle and watched baseball. Mainly because I was literally starting to feel, like, nauseous and off in my room, so I think I was starting to overheat. So I think I made the right decision to go into the living room. But the heat is affecting my reading because it's just too hot to sit in my room and do anything. I know tomorrow is supposed to be hot as well, so I will probably spend time in the living room working on a puzzle again. There are definitely worse ways I could spend my time. I forgot how much I love doing puzzles. So, yeah, it was fun to be working on that. And I do like watching baseball, so it wasn't awful to be out there. It's just a lot of noise, and I mean, we had a bunch of fans going, so there's like just so much noise. So much noise. But anyways, I'm gonna wrap this vlog up now because, like I said, I'm hot. I'm gonna turn that fan back on and cool off. So that's it for this week's vlog. All of my social media is linked in the description below if you'd like to come chat with me. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me icy emojis. Cool thoughts, guys. Cool thoughts. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!